Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Tuesday, April 12th, 2022, and today I'll be sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all the episodes of the podcast, links to social media, ways to donate, and ways to contact me on the podcast page, which is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions for episodes, or if you have stories of experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Always happy to share those, either by reading them on the show or having you join me on the show. Either way. So, I believe that covers everything. I already went over the schedule for this week yesterday, so I think I can skip that. And we can get right on to these stories here. So, let's see here. Go over to the file, and we can begin. Okay, this one says, I will start by saying that my house isn't too old. A family lived in there before me, but both parents passed away, and their kids put the house up for rental. The first thing I noticed was the windows rattled at night. At first, I thought it was the wind, but after checking that the rattling occurs even on windless nights, I came to the conclusion it was an oddity of the house, which is how I think of the haunting. The second thing was noises, like banging and such. The most notorious one was the sound of a bang and then a scratch on a wooden wardrobe. I did check all the inside and outside of said wardrobe for animals, but it was empty. The latest one is shadows I very rarely observe out of the corner of my eye, usually going from one room to another. I'm no stranger. Excuse me, I can't talk tonight. I'm no stranger to subtle hauntings. As in my last house, there were 2 incidents in which I heard clear voices calling in the middle of the night. I usually just ignore and let the spirits do their thing while I do mine. And that's where that one ends. I really like that person's approach to everything. So I just had to say that first of all. I wonder what the bumps and bangs and all that are, or what the reason for that is. I don't know, unless the people that maybe passed there before are trying to get the attention of the people that were living there, the writer and the people that were living there currently. I don't know what else it would be, unless it's some kind of a residual thing where they're just hearing the noises of the people getting around. If they were older, maybe they had, I don't know, walkers or wheelchairs of some kind that were bumping into things as they passed. I don't know though with that one, but I do like I like the writer's approach to everything, where they observe but they don't try to get involved or ask for more activity. So I just wanted to share that one because I like that writer's approach to everything. So, thank you all for being here, whether you're listening to the live stream. I see you all there. Hello, Ken and APOC. I see you there in the chat. And, or whether you're listening to the podcast or YouTube feeds after. Always appreciate everyone listening. So, I guess I can move on to the next one. This one says it was black. Uh, the writing in this one is not the best, so I'll just basically have to add a little bit here and there. But this one goes right into a description of something they saw. It was black and looked like two large triangles joined together at one corner. It was hovering near the entrance to a garage at work. When it realized I was staring at it, the black shape darted into a nearby palm tree. A little while later, I was at another location and looked over and saw a smaller version of it. Again, as soon as I realized I could see it, it was gone. I just wished I had grabbed my phone instead of staring in wonder. And I wanted to share that one because the person doesn't even know how to describe that. Doesn't say it's a ghost, doesn't say it's a person, doesn't say it's a machine, doesn't say it's a UFO. Just two dark triangles connected apparently at one corner. I wonder if they mean like a bow tie shape or if the sides of the triangles are next to each other, so it was like a diamond. That one is just really odd. It's almost like just a weird, dark geometrical shapes hovering in the air. So I wanted to share that one because I have no idea how to even classify that one. And the description was, sounds like they were describing it as well as they could, but there just wasn't much to describe, even in that one. So it's almost like the opposite of when people see like static shapes of shapes made out of static. It's the opposite. It's just a shape made out of darkness that isn't a person or even a sphere. It's not even a shadow orb. You can't even call it that. So, I don't know what to make of that one at all. But I guess I'll just go on to the next one. Let me see here. Let's see here. Okay. This one says, this is my first time posting, so bear with me as I dive into my brief journey with paranormal encounters and what led me to posting about today's weird experience here. So I've had numerous paranormal encounters happen to me in my life. The first one dating back to when I was 18, where I would see moving shadows on my walls, lights turning on and off, and having doors open and close on their own, all while I was home alone. I lived with my mother at the time, and she had never encountered anything of the sort. Even in university, I lived in a haunted nunnery for years, as I worked as an RA in the university's residence in Montreal. It was an old building whose history dates back to the 1870s. The creepiest part of living in the nunnery was that there is a crypt in the basement with over 200 bodies buried down there. Also at the time, the building was half a nunnery, half a student dormitory. Weird combination, but there it was. So many haunted things. I think they mean strange things would happen in that building. From hearing voices, in my case, it was always a woman humming in the corner of my room. Doors would slam shut on their own. Objects would fall off the counter or bookshelves. And the most common thing for people to experience And one of the creepiest things, in my opinion, was that every now and then I would wake up. Oh, that part. I didn't see that part. That's getting a little bit graphic. So we won't go there. Sorry about that. Missed that. It's safe to say that I've had my fair share of experiences. Until today, I haven't ever had something like this happen before. So I work as a chocolatier at this little bakery. And this morning, as part of our daily routine, my coworker and I started baking the morning pastries that would be put on display out front. He put everything in the oven, and when the timer went off, I took everything out and set the trays onto the cooling rack before below the oven. There we go. If I can read. There were 5 trays of baked goods in total. I set a timer for 15 minutes to allow them to cool down before putting them into the display case. Once the timer finished, I started putting the pastries on displays trays. However, once I moved on to the 4th tray, I noticed that it wasn't in its slot. I mean, the whole tray was missing from the spot. It's not a small tray either. It's a huge baking tray. So I started looking around, thinking maybe my coworker had placed it somewhere else, like in a cooling fridge or something. But he was downstairs the whole time and swears he never touched the tray. He didn't believe me either and said it must be there, but maybe just pushed back a little further. So I went back and checked again, thinking maybe he was right, but nothing was there. I even filmed myself looking for it in the area and showed him that it wasn't in the spot. We then had a few customers come in, so I went and served the customers while he went back to work downstairs. Once I finished helping the 2 customers, I went back into the kitchen where I saw him bend down and say, "They're right here." And he pulled out the tray we had been looking for. They totally disappeared and reappeared a few minutes later. I had to show him the video again and again, where it clearly shows that there was nothing in that 4th spot when I checked. It freaked both of us out. I genuinely cannot express how much I was in a state of bewilderment. The tray simply disappeared for a moment of time. So it sounds like this person has had experiences for years. But it does seem like, oh, let's see here. Okay. That does seem like a strange thing to have happen at the end there. So something basically completely disappear and then reappear like that. It's not even like a set of keys or a phone or anything like that. It's an entire. I've seen bakeries before and their trays, and they are good size. So, and the writer even filmed themselves looking for it. So that is odd as well that it wasn't there. But anyway, so that is an odd one there. That's for sure. So I think I will go on to the next story. As one of my 2 recording bots has failed on me here. So I'd like to get these all recorded if possible before I... The other one. We'll see how it goes. And there's a longer one here. Oh well, we'll just go with it. So this one says, years ago, I was a student nurse training in a cottage hospital in my hometown. My student nurse uniform was gray, which is an important detail. This is the fact that I am a male nurse, not a female, and very obviously male too. So as a student nurse, I was asked by my mentor at the time to go and inform a patient she was being discharged the next day. I approached said patient and informed her of the news. Yes, I already know, they said. Oh? I asked. Yes, that lady in the gray uniform told me, they said. I thought it odd, being as I was the only person in a gray uniform at the time, and being obviously male. I couldn't see her getting confused. But I didn't think about it too much, as I had other stuff to do. I was then asked to tell a second patient something. I actually can't remember what it was. Something regarding upcoming treatment. And I got a near identical response. Yes, the other nurse already told me, the patient said. Which other nurse? I asked. Oh, I don't know her name, but she wore gray, like you, the patient said. At this point, I thought it odd enough that I went to my mentor and asked if there was another student working on the ward. My mentor told me no. I asked if there was someone else wearing a gray uniform. At this point, my mentor and a carer both did a side glance at each other and asked why I was asking. I explained the situation. They both looked at each other, knowingly, and then looked at me. The carer looked visibly worried. I asked what was going on. My mentor, the nurse, I can't talk today, told me there were stories on the ward about a lady in gray who would sometimes interact with patients. And also the old uniform in the hospital used to be gray. The carer started telling me how every so often a patient comes out with a line about seeing her interacting with a nurse in gray. But the carer said she had never believed it until now. The fact I was a student from outside the hospital who had never heard the story, and the fact that I had come asking about this lady in gray freaked her out a bit. I got continuous questions from the carer for the rest of the shift. Are you sure you have never heard of it? Are you sure you're not pulling my leg? But genuinely, I had two separate patients tell me they had both received information from a nurse in gray that day. The two patients were in separate parts of the ward, so it's not like they were communicating and playing a prank. And all the staff wore blue, apart from the housekeepers who wear burgundy. So that's my little story about the lady in gray, who supposedly still walks around my local hospital, helping patients with their day-to-day. So that's the end of that story. Oh, did we lose? Okay, no. Good. We didn't lose the other one yet. All right. And that is really amazing. That seems like there was someone there. Don't know who or what it was for sure, but they were obviously interacting with the patients, and the patients reported that back to the student. So, yeah, very very neat story there. Not threatening, not like you see in Hollywood. Yeah, I really like that one a lot. So, but I don't know. Maybe it was a spirit or someone from another time. It's hard to say, but Something that was there enough to interact. So, and someone that knew, that's the other odd thing. Someone that knew what to tell these patients before the writer of the story even knew what to tell them. So what does that mean? How were they aware of these things? That's another detail in there. Um, were they literally standing right by the mentor, the main nurse, that and somehow seeing paperwork or hearing that, but then how did they get there faster than the student did? Um, I still don't think it makes it a scary story. Not necessarily. They didn't do anything bad, but um, yeah, like Apoc says, had to be aware. Yep. So, but all right. Well, move on to these last two stories here, and then we'll end this one. Let's see here. All right. So this next one says, I was about 4 years old at the time this happened. And yes, I know this sounds crazy, but I can remember it like it was yesterday. My aunt and uncle had an old red brick house in Ontario in the early 80s. The layout of their house was as followed. The living room was in the front of the house, and the kitchen was in the back of the house. And to get to the kitchen, you had to move the table and two chairs to open the door to the basement. Now that's out of the way, let me tell my story. On this day, my brother, two cousins, and myself were in the basement playing, while my aunt, uncle, mom, and dad were sitting at the table in the kitchen. After some time, playing, my brother and cousins no longer wanted to play, so I was left to play alone until a man in a white suit came to play with me and my dolls. He was a nice old man with a white beard and a big belly, and after a while, I didn't want to play anymore, and that's when he got upset and took my doll and put it on the top shelf of a shelf that I couldn't get at. So I ran upstairs crying to my mom and dad. When they opened the basement door to me crying and telling them about the man, they ran down to the basement to see where the doll was. Excuse me. That's when my mom asked me to tell her what the man looked like. As I was telling her, I can remember her going white as a ghost. She ran upstairs to the phone ringing at that moment, and when she hung up, she told my dad, aunt, and uncle that her dad had a heart attack, and I had described him completely. Going forward to 30 years, my mom and I were talking about this one night, and she asked me if I could remember this, and I told her yes. She had told me again that I did describe her dad. She also told me when I had seen him, he had just passed away from a heart attack. It's been 41 years, and I still remember it like it happened yesterday. So that's a odd one. That seems like maybe the spirit of this person, although the way they reacted, I don't know. Unless I don't know. There's an odd mix of details in that one that I wonder if he wasn't really that mad, and but as a little kid, maybe the writer thought he was, And then maybe putting that doll on that top shelf was more of almost like a way to show that he was there. Um, or maybe he just got mad easily. Maybe he didn't even mean anything bad, but he just got upset. Um, After he had passed, he went there to visit, and maybe the adults couldn't even see him, so he went and realized that the kids could, or at least one kid could. So, I don't know. That's the timing on that one. Like it says, is odd. Seems like it happened right when, maybe not right when he had passed, but not long after. I'm guessing. Um, oh, there's an interesting one. Apex says my first thought was maybe he had done that to her mother in the past with a doll. Yeah, maybe. Could be. Yeah, it's hard to know based on a brief description like this, even though it wasn't a bad description. But just based on a brief description like that, everything that was going on there. So, but um, but yeah, still an amazing. The timing there is still amazing in terms of how everything played out, and it obviously stuck with the writer. So, but I'm wondering though, did the other kids not see the man? Where did they go? Was it a good sized basement? So maybe they didn't even see him either. There are details in there that you wonder about, or that I wonder about. Would they have seen him if they were nearby, um, or not? And then that could have been even more frightening in a way if they had just seen, from their eyes, just seen this figure or this doll floating up into the air and then landing on a shelf. Um, so that's always, I always wonder about that when there are other people in the area, what they see, what they don't see. Um, but yeah, no, I think it's a good thought, APOC. Um, okay, yeah, so APOC says, just a thought. I mean, why would the mom immediately ask what he looked like? As if she would possibly know. Yeah. Or even believe the kid. Uh, Ken says, yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, quite the story there. But I think I'll get on to this last story here. And then we will be done. Let's see here. Okay. This one says, out at a friend's cabin in the middle of nowhere, about a week back after a smoke, we went out and stared out at the stars. Both of us noticed a green ball of light, probably no bigger than a quarter, about 3 feet away in the tree above us, to the right. It did a quick Z-shaped zigzag and then dissipated. We were unsure what it was, and we were both surprised that we both saw it. We thought it could have been a lightning bug, but we didn't see any other ones out there the entire time we were there. And it was about 20 degrees Fahrenheit out. We both thought we were messing with the other, but the day after, when we talked about it, I asked him again what the deal was, and we were clueless. I don't know if random lights in the middle of valleys are just a thing, like a weird atmospheric anomaly, or if anyone else has seen anything like it before. And that's where that one ends. Just a strange light. In a tree. Again. There's those lights in those trees. I wonder how high up it was in the tree. So, neat little possible orb story there to end with, I guess. Um, so anyway, not much more to talk about in that one, except that it was out in nature. It sounds like couldn't have been anything from power lines or anything like that. It was out in the middle of nowhere. Um, maybe some kind of nature thing. Yeah, sometimes it's hard. These stories, Apex says, I wish people would give more details. Sometimes it's hard if there's they don't think about it, or if it's years later, then they might not remember a lot of details. Um, it can be difficult. So, Will o' the Wisp, Matt says, yeah, it's hard to know what it was, but that'll do it for today. Um, and then we will be back tomorrow night. Um, and that'll be tomorrow night is another book review episode, and we'll go from there. So thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all tomorrow on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.